Okay, so another question I get a lot is about the real estate market here and if it's going to crash.
Yeah, so is the market going to crash? I mean, look, a lot of people now are asking this question because, we have the majority of the people that I work with, like 95% are Americans,
Mm-hmm.
um, Americans, Canadians, right? And then the rest would generally be Mexican buyers, right? So at the end of the day, they're coming from the US economy, right? There's a couple differences. So first of all, no, I don't think the market's going to crash. Do I think some people are pricing properties too high? Yes, but that is not the same thing, right? I spoke to a guy 2 nights ago that was going to list his condo, and he was worried. He wanted to list it right now, um, but it was pre-construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to get the same value as when it's built out. And he said, "Well, what happens if the economy turns? Everybody's talking about a recession." I was like, Jim, they've been talking about a recession for the past 18 months. And
Yeah.
guess what the pricing has done here? It's only increased. So if you had said the same thing 18 months ago, like what's going on? So everybody's saying this, and I personally don't see it happening. And what's going on, people are talking about like interest rates going up, which is a very real thing. I would say that 5 to 10% of the market here is financing. Okay, so that means that 90 to 95% of the people that are buying real estate here are generally paying cash, right? So if you go back to the last really bad crash that the US had in real estate, 2007, 2008, that was not necessarily a real estate crash, that was really a debt and a mortgage crash because they were giving people, hey, you got a pulse, let's give you a loan on this house that's already too expensive and that you can't even afford.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have that issue. So what I would say is like right after the pandemic when interest rates were, 3% for people and it went like this, in the US, let's take a market like Austin, Texas, where my little sister lives, they went like this, right? Whereas Cabo is going like this because you don't have the leverage to just put 30% down
Mm-hmm.
and then finance the rest, which essentially makes the project or the house cheaper to buy into, right?
Yeah.
A lot easier. Here you don't have that, so it's more cash purchases. That also insulates it to a certain extent in down markets, right? So you don't have the same type of crashes. What I would say is if there was a 2007, 2008 type moment where you did have a real estate crash here, one of the markets I wouldn't want to be in would be, like ground up construction, like a project that's just starting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be dangerous because it could be getting into like delays and things. But I don't see a crash happening. And people, hey, you work in real estate. Why would you say, you're just thinking about yourself? And it's like, no, I really don't see a crash happening because I've been listening to these people say this for the past 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then on top of it, it's a very healthy market. Like we're breaking all sorts of records here. I'm on the radio, Amber, and the guy that I do the radio with, he's like an economist by trade. And we made predictions at the beginning of the year. And because of interest rates, because of the dollar and the peso, he said that there's no way we sell the same amount on the MLS in Cabo that we did the year before. And my prediction was we're going to be flat. I think it's going to be safe because nobody here is really financing anyway. We're already above the numbers from last year. And that's with like fear. In the beginning of the year, like tech companies were laying people off. There were all these layoffs. Interest rates were up. So I don't know the future, but I don't really see a crash happening. And one of the main reasons I don't see a bad crash happening is because this market, by definition, is not financed like it is in the United States. And that's a huge difference. It makes it a lot harder to sell real estate here sometimes because at the end of the day, it really is a cash transaction. You might have like 2 or 3 projects here. We were in Palmilla the other day, and like those types of people that are buying like a third, fourth, or fifth house that's like 5 million and up,
Mm-hmm.
like those people are flush right now. Like maybe they could like hold off, but that's a big part of the market here. So you have a lot of affluent buyers here that are basically like, hey, if they do get fear and they think like the stock market might crash, they might try to get into a hard asset like real estate. And if you look at California, if you look at some of these markets, they're still very expensive. So why not come down here? You have a vacation home that you can rent out. So We'll see. I don't think there's a crash, but I will not deny the fact that, somebody invited, like sent out an email blast for an open house in El Tule. Shouldn't, that's the only example I'm going to give. I couldn't believe the pricing on what they were trying to sell.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't in my right mind, like go like support it. So do I think people are listing things for even 30% higher than what it's worth? Yeah, but people just need to get a reality check. So I think because you have less financing here, I just don't think the crash is something that's going to happen.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for your input on that. Well, that's all the questions I had for now, so thank you for your time.
Nice, of course, and happy to help Amber and support her as she gets going here in Cabo. And it's always nice to have younger, motivated agents that are trying to make a difference here. So, thank you.
Well, thank you.